Japanese horror games are the best of its kind. Yup, I said it here first. Instead of putting cheap jump scares and loud music to scare, Japanese horror is designed to scare you psychologically, which in layman's terms mean that it's impossible not to be terrified from these games. I'm your host Andrew, and we are back with new games, and today we'll talk about the top 10 horror Japanese games. At a number 10 spot, we have the Silent Hill series. Probably the most iconic one on this list, the Silent Hill series is one of the most disturbing nightmare situations in a game. The music, the atmosphere, the story, the monsters. It seems like this game took over the horror genre and just made it its own. Silent Hill was published by Konami back in 1999. It is a psychological horror franchise, and much of the game deals with the actions people take and the way they justify it using guilt, anger, or manifesting it to be something bigger. So just to make things clear, the first 4 games of this series were created by Japanese developers, and this includes Silent Hill, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, and Silent Hill 4 The Room. Konami Computer Entertainment Tokyo had various developmental groups, and Team Silent was the one who developed these specific 4 games. At a number 9 spot, we have Fatal Frame series. If you were looking for a game that implements Japanese culture, folklore with horror wrapped up in a nice story, then maybe Fatal Frame is for you. Fatal Frame, or Zero in Japan, is a survival game horror franchise with 5 installments, 2 spin-offs, 2 special editions, and a whole remake. These horrific games were developed by Japanese video game developers Tecmo, who has also released games like Dead or Alive, Deception, or Star Force. The game has you playing as a single character walking around a haunted location looking for clues and fighting ghosts with only a camera. It's called the camera obscura, and it's able to take pictures that normal humans can't see, kind of like a third eye to see spirits. Set in the 1980s Japan, this game takes place in Himura Mansion, where it's said that every 10 years a ritual involving sacrificing a young girl would take place. They would do this by detaching her from all worldly needs before sending her to the afterlife. Except one year it all failed because the young girl fell in love. This caused the family to believe they had dishonored themselves and the family, in which caused each and every single one of them to take their own life away by a traditional Japanese katana. Now their souls are trapped in this mansion for you to explore. At number 8 spot, we have The Evil Within. This is a game that is a very skilled reliant game in that every action and decision you take will actively change the world around you. So at times this game is pretty terrifying. The Evil Within, or Cycle Break in Japan, is a survival horror game developed by Tango Gameworks and published by Bethesda Softworks. It was released in October 2014 and released virtually on every single platform including PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. I'm sorry, Nintendo users. The story follows a guy named Sebastian who has to navigate himself through different chapters filled with these horrifying creatures and realistic needs, such as the need for resources in this game. Trust me, you need to find resources. But other than that, the real horror of this game comes from the whole atmosphere it sets in the Beacon Mental Hospital where a mass murder took place, and the psychological effects you get with every decision you make. At number 7 spot, we have Yamari Night Alone. Yamari is a puzzle-solving survival horror game developed by Nippon Ichi Software. The game I will be talking about is only one game of the Yamari series. Being released in October of 2015, the game received a lot of international praise. The story follows 2 young girls, Yu and Haru, who are headed home before they got separated by a vicious attacker. As the 2 get lost, they have to navigate themselves back home, but the path they travel is much more terrifying than their usual. You will be playing as both the girls, and each decision you make will impact the other girl. The way this game uses sound effects and lighting to emphasize their scares gives them a spot on this list for sure. Not to mention the unique and interesting ways to get through each of the stage of this game. This game is really worth the buy. At number 6 spot, we have The Calling. I kinda threw shade at Nintendo on my last point, so I had to mention one of their exclusives on this list. We have the game The Calling, or Kuroki Kokushin as it is in Japan. This survival horror game was developed by Hudson Soft and released on November 19, 2009. This game is extremely underrated on this list, and I personally think it deserved a spot for a lot of you guys to notice, at least in the horror section of gaming. The game would use your Nintendo Wii controller as a telephone and would randomly ring throughout the game. On the other end would be spirits, ghosts, demons, which is already scary of a concept if you ask me. Obviously the controller could also be used to interact with objects around, but definitely the phone idea, props to them. The game follows a group of characters exploring Mnemonic Abyss, which is a place between life and death, and from here they experience restless ghosts and creepy phone rings from spirits. spirits. On the hump of our list, we have Bloodborne. Created by the renowned Japanese developer From Software, Bloodborne is just as hard as its counterparts Dark Souls and Elden Ring from the same developer. Except Bloodborne definitely takes its spot as one of the most terrifying games along with its extreme difficulty. Released as a PS4 exclusive back in 2015, Bloodborne follows a hunter who's in charge of cleaning up the mess that a disease has caused on the citizens of Yharnam, causing them to be these oversized, superpowered humans, almost godlike. And yeah, lots of blood, lots and lots of blood. This gothic-inspired city harbors some of the most cruel enemies ever shown in horror games, along with the creepy atmosphere that follows you throughout the entirety of the game. My favorite thing about this game that sets them apart from others on this list is definitely their combat system. There are so many different weapon types that only add up to so many different combat strategies. This game allows you to go crazy and pull off combos, which is always something fun to do. And this definitely beats poking and weaving around the whole time. Dark Souls. At number 4 spot, we have Shadow Corridor. This survival indie game was created by a single man named Kazuki Joma, using the infamous Unreal Engine 4. It was released as a free-to-play on June 21st, 2017. In the beginning, you start off as a normal person walking happy across multiple old valleys of Japan. This until you get into a tunnel that transports you into a nightmare in a pure Spirited Away style. Inside this nightmare, you have to confront a world full of apparitions, no mask, and demons and creatures. As well, you have to collect items to survive and get to solve the mystery behind this nightmarish world. Another great point in favor of this game is that in order to unravel all of its secrets, you're going to be spending lots of hours finding hidden items, hidden rooms, collecting all special items, running against the clock to finish the stage, all sorts of things. All the way at a number 3 spot, we have Siren Blood Curse. Siren Blood Curse, or as it's known in Japan as Siren New Translation, is a stealth-based survival horror game developed by Sony's Japan studio. It was exclusive for PlayStation, so once again, Xbox fans have another one of those games that will never see the light of day. The game was later released in 2008. The story begins on August 3rd, 2007 and focuses on an American television crew that arrives in Japan to investigate and document the legend of Hanuda, a vanished village where human sacrifices are said to have taken place 30 years prior. The atmosphere in this game is very unique as well, and at a time in this game, the Japanese village was stuck in a hell-like time loop and would often go split screen to show the two worlds of the living and the dead. The game was a remake of the American version, so it used a lot of Caucasian characters and voice actors despite its Japanese origin. This is definitely another unrated Japanese horror game on this list, and if you like being sneaky and quiet in a horror game, this one might be for you. At a number 2 spot, we have The Corpse Party. Another one of this list created by a single person. Corpse Party was published in 1996 spring, and it was made by 22-year-old college student Makoto Kaduan. Corpse Party is a survival horror game and adventure game that follows a group of friends performing a ritual, except this would instead send them to another dimension where they would be tormented by the ghosts of other children. During the game, you must be able to go through psychological and emotional screwing scenes and a story that will make you question your insanity at times. Along with a terrifying ambience, constant jump scares, unique puzzle, this game will definitely not disappoint. The reason I love this game so much is because it actually plays out like a visual novel almost. The character development and dialogue is what pushes this game to be one of the top contenders in the horror genre. And a great thing I appreciate is that they do add light moments to add relief, as this game will literally have you scared the whole time you play it. At our number 1 spot, we have The Clock Tower 3. I couldn't finish this list without adding one of Japan's most iconic horror games, Clock Tower 3. Clock Tower 3 is a survival horror game that is co-produced by both Capcom and Sunsoft and made as an exclusive for PlayStation 2. The plot follows 14-year-old Alyssa as she tries to escape the menacing clock tower and the slaves inside of it. The majority of the game is played without the use of a weapon, relying instead of your ability to run through or dodge foes. The game has good graphics, mood, and scripting despite some repetitive mechanics and overall commercial failure. The fear comes from a general lack of ability to defend oneself and the ensuing dependency on fleeing or figuring out puzzles. The pressure is to come up with a solution as soon as possible before it's too late. Well, these are the top 10 horror Japanese games. Should we cover more horror games? Let me know in the comment section below what you guys like. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm your host Andrew, and I hope you guys have a scary day.